Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's September 13th, 2023 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor. I'm very pleased to have you here, whether you're here in the room in the Town Hall auditorium or if you are watching us remotely. I will say we will be beginning the open forum portion of our meeting very shortly. The open forum is the portion of the meeting where members of the public have the opportunity to share their comments, their feedback, their input with the town board on really any matter that relates to the town. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube or on our cable access channel, which are two of the ways you can watch our meeting remotely, you will have to log into the Zoom meeting, into the Zoom app, in order to speak during the open forum tonight. There are detailed instructions on how to log in on the town's webpage. That is www.townofbrighton.org. We continue to make our meetings accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community with our ASL interpreters, Allie and Heather. It's great to have you here tonight. As always, thank you both. As a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting, as well as all the materials we'll be looking at in making decisions tonight, are available on the Town of Brighton webpage. Again, www.townofbrighton.org. And they're also available for those of you that are here in the room on the table at the back of the room. I would ask if you're able to please rise. We'll start with the pledge. I'll ask Christine if you would lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't touch the microphone, Bill. Tonight we have three public hearings, each one of which relates to an important public health issue. And for the first one, I'm going to invite Ginger Ruff and Angelina Shimkus to join me, please. Our first proclamation is a proclamation recognizing September as National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. All of you, and we all do at some point, driving through the 12 Corners, you have seen their work and the work of other volunteers. As we do each year, the 12 Corners Park is filled with teal-covered, colored ribbons as part of the Turn the Town Teal campaign to raise awareness of ovarian cancer. We have Ginger and Angelina with us here tonight. They've championed the Turn the Town, it's a tongue twister, teal observance, and we really appreciate both of you doing this. So I'm pleased to present this proclamation to them and pleased to thank them for their work, not just in September, but throughout the year. I'm going to read the proclamation and then they'll have an opportunity to say a few words. Whereas ovarian cancer is called the silent disease because its symptoms are often vague and there is no conclusive early detection test for the disease. And whereas ovarian cancer is the fifth leading cause of cancer-related deaths among women and the most deadly of the gynecologic cancers. Whereas if detected in its early stages, survival from ovarian cancer is 90 to 95%. But since the disease is difficult to detect early, the 5-year survival rate for ovarian cancer currently stands at only 28%. Whereas to raise awareness of this terrible disease, local volunteers have placed teal ribbons on the trees, lampposts, and the gazebo at the 12 Corners, joining with others around the nation who promote the Turn the Town Teal campaign every September. Now be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of the Brighton Town Council do hereby recognize September as National Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month and encourage Brighton residents to educate themselves about this elusive disease in the hope of increasing instances of early detection, thereby helping to save women's lives. And this proclamation is signed this 13th day of September, 2023, by myself and by all of the members of the Brighton Town Board. I'm very pleased to present it to you and welcome your thoughts. Let's get a picture here. Oh, yeah, good. Thank you very much. All right. I'll let either or both of you say a few words.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to Brighton for supporting this the past 9 years. We've really been appreciative of spreading awareness. My mom had ovarian cancer and passed away in 2013. It will be 10 years next month. So it's a very special cause to myself and my family. Early detection is what it's all about, knowing the symptoms. Even if you're a man or a woman, it's important to know so that if someone you love starts experiencing the symptoms, you can get them help right away. And so it's really just about starting the conversation, and we feel so proud to see those teal ribbons every year in town, and thank you for your support.
Yeah, thank you all so much. This is very, very appreciative. I get emotional, so I'll try not to. But one of my good friends, who we're both teachers together, passed away a few years ago from ovarian cancer, and sorry, gosh. And yeah, like Ginger said, just raising awareness, really bringing to light the symptoms, because especially with women, they mask themselves as everyday things that we suffer. So I remember, I'll try to keep it brief, but 4 years ago, I live near 12 Corners, and I saw the ribbons, and I went on this wild goose chase to figure out who put them up, and I sent a picture of them to my friend who passed away, and she lives in Pittsburgh, and I was like, we need to do this for you, and got connected with Ginger, and I'm just so appreciative that Brighton is so welcoming to having this and to raising awareness too. So thank you all, and thank you, Ginger, for everything that you do so that we can spread the word even more. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much, and we'll keep turning the town teal every September, and in the hopes that the awareness that's raised here, and this is a program around the country, so many communities together, we can make a difference here. September is also Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I'll invite Lynn to come and join me. Cancer is a word we never want to hear, but a childhood cancer diagnosis can be particularly terrifying to a family that receives it, and of course terrifying to the child who is a patient and who is experiencing the challenges of medical treatment for cancer. To ease that trauma for childhood cancer patients, Cure Bears for Hope and Love donates teddy bears and dolls to children undergoing cancer treatment, and thereby also raising awareness of the impact of childhood cancer. September is recognized as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the nation, and therefore I'm very pleased to present this proclamation recognizing September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month here in the town of Brighton. And I will read the proclamation, and then Lynn, I'll present it to you. Whereas cancer is the leading cause of death by disease for children in America, with approximately 40,000 children in active treatment at any given time. Whereas globally, more than 400,000 children are diagnosed with cancer each year, and 80% of them reside in developing countries. In developing countries, the 5-year survival rate for children with cancer is just 7.4%, compared to wealthier nations like the US, where the survival rate is nearly 80%. Whereas there have been great strides in cancer research and treatment over the last 60 years, it is important to know that 1 in 285 Americans will be diagnosed with cancer before their 20th birthday, and that 2/3 of the survivors will suffer from chronic health problems after treatment. And whereas providing support to the children and their families struggling with cancer helps them muster the strength to tackle another day, locally, Cure Bears for Hope and Love does just that by donating bears and dolls to children undergoing treatment and continuing to raise awareness of the trials of childhood cancer. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, along with the members of the Town Council, do hereby recognize September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Brighton, and remind others that even small gestures of kindness can make a child with cancer feel more cared for and less alone. This proclamation is signed this 13th day of September 2023 by myself and the members of the town board, although it looks like somehow, Robin, we missed your signature on this one. So we'll get Robin's signature on it before you leave tonight, Lynn. But you know, you and I, we see each other at Rita's when you hold one of your wonderful events. Yes. Raising money for childhood cancer. You know, what could be better? You know, it's a tough cause, but it's an important cause. And to help raise money for that and supporting a local business and getting some great dessert treats. But, you know, that's just a small, small thing. And childhood cancer is something we can all commit to working to fight, to raise awareness of. And Lynn, I'm so grateful for what you do to ease the lives of children and their families. So let me present this. I'm just gonna walk over here, have Robin sign it. Great. I'll present it to you. We'll get some more.
Just have no
And
post-it
we'll take the Post-it note. Pay no attention to that Post-it note.
finger out of the lens, dear.
That's sort of the modern version of remove the lens cap, right? Lynn, I'll give this to you, and if you'd like to say a few words, we'd love to.
My involvement with childhood cancer started years ago, 1981 actually. I was a pediatric oncology nurse for 29 and a half years, and I worked at Strong the last 15 years and worked on the bone marrow transplant unit. So these children touch your heart, and they are your true inspiration, and that's how I actually became involved. When I retired, I started Cure Bears for Hope and Love, and have been doing that the last 10 years now. And we sent over 3,000 bears out to kids and have expanded. I also volunteer with Cure. And if you wonder about the weird haircut, we do St. Baldrick's Foundation event. And my husband and I both shaved on Sunday for that. So it raises money for childhood cancer research. So it's just a cause that is dear and dear to my heart, so I appreciate it. And if you think about it, we don't do the teal ribbons, but tie a gold ribbon around outside your house and just raise awareness, because gold is the color for childhood cancer awareness. And thank you, Bill. And the ribbons are
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lynn. Thank you for the work you do, a creative way to make a small but very tangible difference in those lives. And enjoy the ball game. Jennifer.
Welcome.
Our third proclamation recognizes that September is Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Awareness Month. And again, part of the reason for presenting this proclamation, part of the reason it's so important that we recognize this month is to raise awareness in a couple of ways. First, it's so important to raise awareness of the risks of drinking during pregnancy, particularly during the first 3 months of pregnancy. Second is raising awareness for families, making them aware of the resources and the treatments that are available for them who are living with, raising children who suffer and struggle with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders. The National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependency, Rochester area, is working on fetal alcohol spectrum disorders in this community. I'm so pleased that Jennifer Farringer is with us tonight to receive this proclamation and to tell us all a little bit more about FASD and the work that her agency does. So let me read this proclamation, and then I'll again turn the podium over to you. Whereas alcohol is now recognized as the leading preventable cause of birth defects and developmental disorders in the United States, with thousands of children born each year with lifelong disabilities due to their exposure to alcohol prenatally. Whereas there's no known amount of alcohol that is safe to drink while pregnant and no known safe time to drink during pregnancy. However, the first 3 months of pregnancy, when the brain develops, is a particularly critical time of fetal development when alcohol can damage the brain. Whereas September is recognized as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Awareness Month, as a reminder that drinking alcohol during the 9 months of pregnancy can cause a variety of lifelong issues for newborn babies, including low IQ, learning disabilities, speech and language delays, mild to severe behavioral problems, vision and hearing problems, problems with vital organs, and more. Whereas individuals and families living with FASD often struggle in their search for medical and personal support, so it is especially important that the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, Rochester area, helps ensure that people get the support, education, and advocacy they need as they manage the negative impact that FASD has on their lives. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and on behalf of the members of the Brighton Town Council, do hereby recognize September as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Awareness Month in the town of Brighton, and encourage all Brightonians to promote the message that FASD is a serious, preventable diagnosis, and support women in the discontinuing the use of alcohol for the duration of their pregnancy. This proclamation is signed the 13th day of September, 2023 by myself and by my colleagues on the board. Very happy to present it to you and welcome a few words, and we'll get one more shot here. The floor is yours.
Bravo to you, Bill, and to each of you for recognizing this. This is rarely recognized. Our work at the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence for the last many decades has been to raise the awareness around this issue. Our clear message is there is absolutely no safe level of drinking during any time during pregnancy, and we let folks know that this birth defect is 100% preventable. So our clear message, you may have seen our media with our meager media budget. We post as much as we can, as many print sources that we can, that if you're thinking of getting pregnant, don't drink. And if you are pregnant, stop drinking. There is help available.
We also point people to resources both for diagnosis, intervention through the University of Rochester, and then education through the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence Rochester area. Thank you so much for recognizing this.
Three truly important public health issues, and I'm glad we can raise awareness on each of them. Just a couple of other quick things before we get into the open forum. I do want to make sure, give everybody an update on the work that is continuing on Elmwood Avenue. The first segment of the repaving and reconfiguration project from the 12 Corners Winton Road to just past Eastland Avenue has been substantially completed, and work has commenced on the second segment from, again, close to Eastland all the way down to South Clinton Avenue. As you probably know, Elmwood is being not only repaved, which it was very much in need of a full repaving, and it was part of the county's plan to do so, but also reconfiguring to convert Elmwood Avenue into 3 lanes, 1 traffic lane in each direction, a center turn lane with bike lanes on either side. That will not only calm traffic, reduce speed limits, but also provide a safer space, 6-foot wide bike lane for bicyclists. So far, the feedback I'm receiving on the project on this first leg has been very positive, and I'm looking forward to the continuation of the project now with completion anticipated before the end of October still, Everett? Is that?
That is correct.
Great, great. Of course, anytime you've got a construction project on the roads, travel can be a little more difficult, so I urge people coming down Elmwood to start getting into that habit of the calmer traffic pattern that this will generate. Be careful as you drive, but I do think the results of this project will be very positive for the long term for our community, and I hope really a role model, an example for what other county roads can do. I've had some discussions, we've had discussions, Christine, I heard from someone today about Clinton Avenue. I made them aware of how you had raised that as an issue as well, and it's an important issue, and I'm hoping we don't have to wait until it's repaved. It's paint, and paint can be done.
Paint goes a long way.
Yes, it does. The other thing I just want to real briefly mention, we'll have a couple of items later on the agenda, is that the town is in the midst of developing its budget for the year 2024. Tonight we will be setting public hearings on the town budget. Those hearings will be held on October 11th and October 25th. Those are opportunities for the public to provide their input on the budget. We'll also be considering for approval the town's 3-year capital improvement plan tonight. The CIP is a financial budgeting measure that is recommended for towns by the New York State Comptroller. It gives us a roadmap for planning our expenditures for infrastructure, equipment, and other large-scale investments. Earl and I will be discussing our capital improvement plan in a little bit more detail when we get to that item on the agenda. But first, I want to open our open forum, which we hold at the beginning of every town board meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the town board concerning any matter relating to the town, whether or not it's an item on our agenda tonight. Although I would note that if you're here to speak to the public hearing on the proposed local law reducing the speed limit on most town streets and roads from 30 to 25 miles an hour, that you wait until that public hearing is called so that your comments will be included in the record. But if you are here in person and want to speak during the open forum, simply raise your hand and we'll recognize you. If you're participating in the meeting remotely, again, we ask that you join the Zoom meeting. If you're on Zoom and would like to speak during the open forum, please use the raised hand function in Zoom. I would ask all speakers during the open forum, whether you're here in person or speaking remotely, to please state your name and address. Come to the microphone, to the podium here if you're here in person. If you would, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time is going to expire. We may not be able to answer every question. If you have questions for us, particularly if your questions relate to matters that are not on tonight's agenda, but it's our goal here tonight and at every town board meeting to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with the board and for us to listen thoughtfully to your words. Therefore, please direct your remarks during the open forum to the town board and not to the room or other speakers. Please refrain from personal attacks of any kind, from outbursts of any kind during the open forum, out of respect for the speakers and for the time of everyone here tonight. So with that, I'll open the open forum. Is there anyone here that would like, in person, that would like to address the town board during the open forum tonight? Seeing none, is there anybody on Zoom that would like to address the board during the open forum? And again, I see no one. So in that case, I'll ask Chris for a motion to approve the agenda.
We have no one on open forum. I move that we approve the agenda.
Second?
Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Peggy Lull is working the meeting tonight, our deputy town clerk in the town clerk's absence. So it's nice to have you here always, Peggy. We do have one public hearing tonight. It's a public hearing to consider the reduction in the speed limit on most town streets in Brighton. And by town streets, I mean town streets that are maintained, that are essentially owned by the town, as opposed to certain streets that are county, like Elmwood Avenue, or state streets like Monroe Avenue. To reduce that speed limit from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, you can participate in this public hearing remotely as well on Zoom. And again, if after all this time we haven't learned how to get on Zoom, there are instructions available on the town's webpage. Peggy, has the necessary legal notice been given to hold this public hearing?
It has in the Daily Record on August 28th, 2023.
Thanks very much. Legal notice having been given, I declare this public hearing to be open. Everett or Ken, would you like to start with some preliminary?
Sure. A little bit of a background on this. Earlier, I don't know if it was this year or last year, the New York State Vehicle and Traffic Law was updated to allow municipalities to reduce townwide speed limits from 30 miles per hour down to 25 within their jurisdictional boundaries. And in order to establish this reduced speed limit, towns had to perform an engineering analysis that was performed by a professional engineer certified in traffic operations. As such, the town contracted with Stantec Consulting Services earlier this year to perform this analysis. That analysis is now complete. As part of the analysis, the roadways in the town were separated into two groups, Group 1 roadways and Group 2. Group 1 roadways being local roads that are residential in nature, with Group 2 also being certified as urban local roads, but perhaps they're not contained within a neighborhood, or they're arterial in nature, or connect to collector roads. And so as part of the study, the town selected two of those Group 2 roadways, portions of French Road and North Landing Road. After the work that Stantec completed, they are recommending that all Group 1 roadways in the town and the Group 2 roadways that were selected as part of the study be reduced down to 25 miles per hour.
Thanks, Everett. Just
For the record, just a
Sure.
point of clarification, I'm not sure what was taken down by the stenographers, but Commissioner, you said that the study is now complete?
Oh, has been completed.
Yes.
For
Not
I'm glad you mentioned that because it was a little hard for me to hear as well whether the word not or now was being used. But
Yes.
thank you, Ken, for that clarification. And you know, it's something we as a town had tried to get the state legislature to do for the town of Brighton for many years, and they had declined to do it under the home rule powers. So I'm really pleased that recently the legislature did take this action, not just for Brighton, but for municipalities across the state. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to address the board concerning this proposed local law? If you would come to the podium, please state your name and address and give your comments.
Good evening. My name is Megan Stewart. I live at 980 Allens Creek Road. And I want to commend the board for taking this action and encouraging a reduction in the speed limit and taking some timely action on taking advantage of this change in the rule. As we all know, I think, and I just lost my note. As we all know, I think the speed limit, the pace, and kind of the cadence of traffic going down a street sets a tone not only for the businesses but for the community and for the residents that live in that community. As a resident on Allens Creek, so directly on Allens Creek, I live at the corner of Brookside and Allens Creek Road, so at the East Avenue end. We have seen a remarkably kind of daunting increase in the speed in which traffic is going down Allens Creek Road. I see some nods here. I think some people realize that. I know I've had some correspondence with our chief of police and with talking with some of our police officers. It's a very difficult thing to enforce, not just on Allens Creek, but throughout the town. The pandemic was almost a blessing because there was no traffic, but it has gotten remarkably worse since the pandemic was over. And we have children in the neighborhood. We have elderly people in the neighborhood that want to walk on the sidewalks. They do not feel safe having the children on the sidewalks on Allens Creek. And our elderly, my mother, will not walk down Allens Creek. It's just she doesn't feel that it's safe. The town has put speed monitors in my front yard in an attempt to kind of slow the traffic down. In my personal watch of those monitors, it is not it's not rare to see the speed limit at 45 miles an hour or higher in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. And given the fact that we are less than 3 blocks from East Avenue, the fact that they are accelerating at that pace is just alarming. So I was very excited when I got the notice of public hearing for a townwide reduction of the speed limit from 30 to 25. But of course, as I was reading that and seeing that Allens Creek, as well as Highland, which are fully residential in the town of Brighton between East Avenue, Route 96, and Clover Street, as being excluded from Group 1 to be included in this and left in Group 2 and not analyzed, I was very disappointed. And I want to ask you respectfully to, if not now, very soon, to address this issue on Allens Creek Road particularly. It is not the street I bought the house on. It was a residential street when we purchased that home on Allens Creek, and now it feels like a commercial thoroughfare. Something really needs to be done, and I think the residents of the town of Brighton deserve that type of protection, just like you're giving to the other residents in the other streets in the town. So I'll end there and say thank you again for embarking on this, and please don't stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board at this time? And I see no one on Zoom. So hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. I will ask for a motion and then we can have discussion on the local law. Christine?
Yes.
In the matter regarding the townwide speed limit reductions, I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Discussion.
I did just want to address the type 2 thoroughfares that were not included in the study. Unfortunately, the county does require a study that is rather cost prohibitive when you get into the type 2 thoroughfares. And I personally would love to see Allens Creek and Highland eventually considered for 25-mile-an-hour speed limits. Those are both roads that in which I live very close to and find myself traveling down quite frequently, and often I'm tailgated when going the speed limit on those roads. They are extremely residential in nature, especially towards the easternmost portions. And again, I hope that we find the resources to actually do a complete town-wide 25-mile-an-hour speed limit reduction.
Any other comments?
I would like to just add that I'm gratified that our state representation in Albany were yes votes on this, recognizing that local decisions need to be in the hands of the local community and leadership. I appreciate the state's requirement for studies, although it frustrates me greatly that the expense ends up being shouldered by the community. But I'm glad that we have the empirical evidence that proves that our neighborhood streets are just fine at 25 miles an hour. And I second my colleagues' comments about pursuing reductions on other roadways in town. So we've set a precedent with this townwide neighborhood 25 miles an hour, and perhaps there are other segments of our roadways, whether they are town or county or state, that would do well with a speed reduction.
Well, I think folks need to remember that even though without this study, we're not going to be at 25 mile an hour on these other Group 2 streets, the speed limit along those streets is 30 miles an hour. And that's a modest speed. We'd like to see it at 25 if we could. But 45 is absolutely unacceptable. And I also have seen that kind of speed along that roadway. But if we can set the pace ourselves, and even though we might be tailgated, so be it. But it's time for us to look at all the streets in Brighton for such reduction.
Everett, I'm going to suggest that you and I meet with Earl, our finance director, and have a discussion about what we learned about the cost of these studies, and bring back a proposal for the consideration of adding additional streets. I don't remember your exact words, but I'll just say in the not too distant future, in the very near future, that we can consider whether some or all of those additional level 2 streets, which we did consider, but see where we're at farther into the year now, and what the opportunities might be, particularly since we have worked already with Stantec on an initial study.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Great. Any further comments? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing closed. We have a motion on the floor to approve this local law. And Peggy, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
And Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. And I know we've talked a little bit, Everett, in terms of signage going up. That's something we'll be getting signage ready to go as quickly as we can.
Yeah, so we've compiled a list of streets, and we've generated a map where we believe street signs are currently 30 miles per hour that need to be swapped over. Also, Stantec has provided some guidance on streets that are currently unposted that will have to be posted because it is a new townwide speed limit, and likely there will have to be some enforcement to help guide folks of the new speed limit.
Great. Thanks very much. Communications. Robin, can I have a motion to receive and file our communications tonight?
I move that we receive and file the communications.
Second.
Two items of correspondence here. One in particular, it's great to have you here, Peggy, because this is a letter from a resident who lives on Westland, giving you praise for your work in the town clerk's office. Thank you very much. We also have a letter from former county legislator Travis Hyder, who sent an email this morning setting forth his support of the Topgolf incentive zoning proposal, which we'll be talking a little bit more about later on the agenda. So those are the two items we have tonight. We have a motion to receive and file those. Thank you to our stenographers tonight, by the way. We appreciate having you here. Any further discussion on those? Hearing none. Peggy? Oh, sorry,
I'm
Christine.
not sure if the email from Travis Hyder made it into the final
packet?
packet for the evening.
It's not in the packet.
Oh,
It made it to the agenda, but not to the packet.
I'm sorry. Well, we'll make sure it gets delivered. It was a letter. Actually, I can describe it briefly because Mr. Hyder's son goes to the University of Tennessee. He is not a golfer, but he has had the occasion to go to Topgolf, and he and his father, Travis, had this conversation about the fact he had seen on the news that Topgolf was coming to Brighton, and expressed how, from his perspective as a person in a younger generation, that it generates some excitement for the community. Travis spoke about the benefits of employment and about enhancing our tax base. But we'll get that letter around to everybody and incorporate it in the record of the meeting. Thanks, Christine. We have a motion and seconded. Peggy, if you could call the roll, please.
Sure. Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
And Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Committee reports. Robin, Community Services.
Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee has not met in the intervening timeframe since our last town board meeting, but I do have a few quick updates from our Parks and Recreation Department heads. From our Parks Department, the department is extremely busy with park and facility maintenance tasks, especially on trails. In particular, park staff has started the South End Trail rebuilding project at Corbett's Glen, installed new signage and trail boulders to deter motor vehicle usage along the Lehigh Valley Trail, and is performing ongoing maintenance along the Auburn Trail within the town's easement requirements. Mowing and trimming have once again become very difficult in the early fall due to the cool nights and surfeit of rain we've experienced. The majority of the department's seasonal staff shifts have ended, leaving staff fully extended. Staff is still working hard to accommodate and manage athletic field reuse requests for the fall sports season. Staff have also placed new surfacing on all town managed playgrounds. This annual maintenance takes a great deal of time due to loading and hauling material to 7 different playgrounds across the community. Finally, as the town's budgeting season concludes, our parks superintendent is continuing to identify capital improvement projects and maintenance equipment needs for the future. And an update from our recreation department, our fall program registration is currently underway for all members of the community. Full details and program offerings are available on the recreation website, which is www.townofbrighton.org/rec, R-E-C. Please call the Recreation Department with any questions at 585-784-5260, extension 0. The Brighton Farmers Market is ongoing in the Brighton High School parking lot on Sundays from 9 a.m. through 1 p.m. for our regular outdoor season, which continues through November 19th, and our late outdoor season will extend through from November 26th through December 17th. Join us and explore all of the wonders of the season at the market. And I would like to remind the community that SNAP and EBT benefits are welcome at the Brighton Farmers Market. We also encourage members of the community to check out our monthly calendar for Brighton Seniors Lunches Out and About. The calendar includes times that you can join us for lunch out and about in the community. The locations change, but we always have a good time with friends enjoying food and sometimes lively entertainment. Full details are online. You can sign up for our monthly newsletter to stay up to date with all of the fun things happening with the Brighton seniors. Some upcoming community events. Our annual Trunk or Treat celebration will occur on Saturday, October 21st from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. at a location to be determined. There is free pre-registration encouraged. For planning purposes, however, you can register again online at the Recreation Department website, www.townofbrighton.org/rec. Our semi-annual electronics recycling and secure document shredding event will occur at the Brighton Highway Department parking lot, 1941 Elmwood Avenue, on Sunday, October 22nd, and that is a change to accommodate the Trunk or Treat celebration. So that will be on Sunday, October 22nd, from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And then the semi-annual Drug Enforcement Agency pharmaceutical take-back event will occur at the Brighton Town Hall Public Safety Wing, 2300 Elmwood Avenue, on Saturday, October 28th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be next Wednesday, September 20th at 9:30 a.m. or immediately following our Finance and Administrative Services Committee meeting at the Brookside Recreation Center multi-purpose room. Please access the Recreation Department through the Winton Road entrance. And as always, members of the public are encouraged and invited to attend.
Thanks, Robin. I'm so glad you mentioned October 21st, Trunk or Treat. I'm going to have to make sure I let my good friend Farmer Bill know about Trunk or Treat, make sure he can join us again this year.
Not to be missed.
Jason, Finance Committee.
Yes, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Wednesday, September 6th. Each of the items that were discussed in committee appear on tonight's Town Board agenda and will be discussed and voted on. In addition, there were lengthy discussions regarding the final draft of the 2024 through 2026 Capital Improvement Plan. That also appears on tonight's agenda for adoption. And then also there was a tentative draft of the 2024 budget that was presented and discussed in the committee. And tonight we will be setting the public hearings for our 2 October Town Board meetings for our public hearings on next year's budget. Our next meeting of the Finance and Administrative Services Committee will take place next Wednesday, September 20th. We meet at 8:30 in the morning here in the auditorium at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks, Jason. And the one thing I didn't mention before when I was talking about the budget is that, as you mentioned, we had an initial discussion on the budget at our Finance Committee meeting last week. At our next Town Board meeting, I will be presenting, along with the Finance Director, our tentative budget for 2024, so that people will have the opportunity to see it and read it before the 2 public hearings in October. The budget message that is issued annually will also come out that day. So thank you for all that. Public Safety Committee, Chris.
Thanks, Bill. The Public Safety Committee met yesterday morning at 0800, and the highlights of that discussion included a report from the Brighton Fire Department of 768 calls year to date, but most particular a CPR save on August 29th. we were pleased to report on, as well as a water rescue in Ellison Park. So we appreciate the fine work they've done in the fire department. Department of Public Works, Commissioner Garcia reported on paving on Antlers, Hollywood, and Greenwich, and having been continued, and also that Wendover is scheduled for milling on September 14th, which would be tomorrow, still on target. And also there'll be more work done on Park Meadow and Monroe Parkway towards the end of September. The police department indicated they've had 33,994 calls year to date through August. And they conducted the Speed Awareness Week, August 14th through 20th, which is a high visibility mobilization aimed at reducing incidents of speed-related crashes, in the course of which they issued 51 traffic tickets, 32 of which related to speed. September 24th will be Public Safety Day at the Farmers Market, and on October 7th, the Rabies Control Clinic will be conducted between 10 a.m. and noon, where anyone can bring in their dog to have it vaccinated for rabies. And that's for anyone, anywhere that wants to bring their dog into the Brighton Rabies Clinic. It's a very deadly disease and easily controlled with that vaccination. Henrietta Fire District reported on calls to date in West Brighton through August of 612. Thankfully, they had no calls of note in West Brighton. We also discussed the pedestrian and turn signals on Westfall, Winton, Monroe, Edgewood, Torrington, and Allens Creek. And Councilmember Corrado and Commissioner Garcia went out to those intersections and reviewed existing conditions such as striping and paint markings, along with proposed improvements. Commissioner Garcia indicates that he will continue to work with New York State DOT to find a time to meet and discuss these concerns, and hopefully that they be addressed. A townwide speed reduction, we discussed at the meeting, and we have already had a discussion of tonight. Also, in response to a resident request, we're looking at crosswalks on Highland Avenue, along Grosvenor, Pelham, and Council Rock Avenue to help get kids and their families across the street there. And Commissioner Garcia is working on putting together some basic guidelines and criteria for installing crosswalks on town streets. And he'll be working as well with council. Also, there's a discussion of the traffic signal at North Landing and Blossom Roads, and Commissioner Garcia mentioned that he will be discussing these intersections and pedestrian safety there with New York State Department of Transportation as well. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, October 10th at 0800 hours here in the auditorium, and the public is invited and encouraged to attend.
Thanks very much, Chris. Christine, Public Works.
Public Works met yesterday morning, immediately following Public Safety. We had a full house and a full agenda, so bear with me as I report on much good work that was done yesterday. Open forum. We had a resident from Georgian Court who addressed the Public Works Committee on various pedestrian safety topics. Primarily, the resident wanted to learn more about the process for developing a special district and installing sidewalks in the Georgian Court neighborhood. And Public Works staff will follow up with the resident to provide a summary of the process. Commissioner Garcia and his team have a very clearly outlined process, and you're all very supportive of residents who come in seeking that information. Second, the resident inquired about the process for considering installation of a rapid rectangular rapid flashing beacon for the Clover Street crossing at Esplanade Drive, similar to the discussions in public safety. Public Works Committee noted that the town previously identified pedestrian crossing locations along county roads such as Clover, where our RFBs could be considered throughout Brighton, and the list is with the Monroe County Department of Transportation. They are reviewing them for the appropriateness of our RFBs, and will provide an update subsequent to an evaluation in the coming months. Correct? Not weeks,
Correct, yeah.
And the Clover Street crossing at Esplanade has been added to that list. In old business, we welcomed quite a large contingent related to the outdoor recreation and golf entertainment venue project. BME Associates made a final presentation before requesting incentive zoning consideration. The developer Westfall Brighton SRE LLC is proposing to make an incentive zoning application for the development of a Topgolf facility on 18 acres of vacant land located at the south side of Westfall Road in the town of Brighton on the shared boundary with the city of Rochester. The Topgolf site would consist of a 45,500 plus or minus square foot facility, a two-story building with a 23,700 square foot footprint. The proposed development features 80 indoor driving range bays designed for games and recreation on 2 levels, with an outfield that includes game targets and elements, with barrier netting and net poles, high-definition digital screens, a full-service restaurant and bar, indoor and outdoor dining and seating areas, dedicated event space, and parking for up to 325 cars on the site. Of particular note, vehicular access will be provided from the existing driveways on East Henrietta Road through the City Gate development, with no direct access to Westfall Road from the Brighton site. So the applicant is requesting that the town board at the September 27th meeting file and receive the incentive zoning application and deem the application worthy of further consideration. And it would move on next to the planning board. Ken, you look like you might have a comment.
Yeah, it's on tonight's agenda. It's
done.
September 27th. We're doing it fast.
That's what I thought.
Following that
things
presentation, following that presentation, well, I'll let Ken describe.
Yeah, so the developer really wants to get on the planning board agenda for October. And we can accommodate that by you all, I think, were, maybe except for Councilmember DePonzio, were at the Public Works Committee. All of you have had an opportunity to review it. At this point in time, the process is simply determining whether it's worthy of further review so it can get pushed onto the planning board for their review. And so we put it on tonight's agenda because the cutoff for the October planning board meeting is actually next Tuesday, the 19th of September. So we wanted to give the board, the town board at least, the opportunity to review the project and refer it over to the planning board before the planning board's cut off for that October meeting.
Absolutely reasonable. And things do move quickly sometimes, and the 24-ish hours since we met. In another matter, we heard a presentation on the town hall evaluation for green heating and cooling solutions. It was presented by Inex Architecture and ME Engineering. The two firms made a second and final presentation to the Public Works Committee related to clean heating and cooling alternatives under consideration as part of the town hall renovation project. The alternatives being considered are HVAC solutions, which will not use fossil fuels, and include 1, a variable refrigerant flow or VRF air-sourced heat pump system, and 2, a geothermal heat pump solution. The 2 proposed clean heating and cooling solutions were compared to the hybrid HVAC solution currently proposed as part of the priority project. The design team determined that the estimated cost of the VRF solution would be approximately $1.8 million, and the estimated cost of the geothermal solution would be $3.3 million. The estimated cost of the hybrid HVAC solution initially included as part of the priority project scope is $2.4 million. The analysis performed by the design team also considered annual operating costs for each system along with life cycle cost evaluation. The design team provided the committee with a summary of energy incentives which have been identified and could help the town mitigate capital costs associated with the installation of these systems. And of note is the clean energy tax provisions in the Inflation Reduction Act. These provisions allow for up to a 30% credit of the qualified investment to be reimbursed to the town. And confirmation that political subdivisions like the town of Brighton are eligible for the IRA incentive will be provided as part of the final report.
We've received that confirmation.
Again, things happen very quickly when Commissioner Garcia is involved. Excellent. And therefore, before making the final selection of the HVAC system to be included as part of the town hall renovation project, the committee would like the design team to update the final report with a comparison of the estimated carbon cost of electricity, which maybe we have as well.
No, yet, not that one.
Not everything happens overnight. Let's see. A comparison of the 20-year equipment replacement costs for both the VRF and the geothermal solution, and clarification of the life cycle payback table included in the report presented to us yesterday. The committee asked the design team for a list of other facilities which currently use either one of the clean heating and cooling solutions as retrofits, and they are few and far between. We seem to be a leader once again in green solutions. And we anticipate receiving the amended report in about 3 weeks. In Monroe County Department of Transportation project updates, Elmwood Avenue Road Diet, the supervisor has already shared an update on that project. And Westfall Road surface treatment, that project has been completed, so it's smoother sailing on the western portion of Westfall Road in Brighton.
Very nice.
It is very nice. New York State DOT project updates. No new updates for the bridges over I-590. The bid opening for the project is expected in the fall of 2024 with construction in 2025 and 2026. The Monroe Avenue corridor improvements, again, no new update. Bid opening for the project is expected in the summer of 2026 with construction in 2026-27. The committee did express strong interest in engaging the DOT in the early development of this project, as we have a great deal of input already compiled and ready for use. The West Henrietta Road corridor improvements, again, no new updates for the project. That will enhance the Route 15 corridor from Jefferson Road to I-390 in Brighton and Henrietta. The project proposes to address pavement condition and drainage concerns, provide bicycle and pedestrian accommodations, and upgrade the traffic signal system. And the bid opening for that project is expected in 2027-28 with construction in 2028-29. So improvements to anticipate. And in new business, the committee briefly discussed the possibility of the town developing a complete streets policy. Work is underway. Commissioner Garcia and Councilmember Wilt have been working at that. The development of the policy has been recommended in the Comprehensive Development Plan and is currently recommended in the Draft Climate Action Plan. Such a policy would recommend that the town consider the safety, convenient access, and mobility of all roadway users of all ages and abilities when developing transportation projects. Users include pedestrians, bicyclists, public transportation riders, and motorists. It's not car first. It includes children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities. The committee reviewed the New York State Department of Transportation list of counties and municipalities with complete streets resolutions, and the committee will review the list to determine if there are sample resolutions that might be applicable to a community like Brighton and discuss further. The template that the commissioner, and I'm sorry, did I leave you out? Ken, I did leave you out. You're not in there yet. And the council member are looking at.
I think he will be.
Soon.
Or maybe I won't.
In any case, looking at a very good policy from the village of Pittsford, which has a slightly different built environment to consider when considering complete streets. So it's a good template to work from, and we'll find more like matter for Brighton. Last, a resident addressed the committee regarding centerline striping on South Landing Road and Lockdeville Boulevard. The resident lives on South Landing Road and brought up the fact that the centerline striping on South Landing Road has reappeared. Studies have shown that removing the centerline striping calms traffic and creates more room for pedestrians, in that drivers will move. They don't feel constricted by the centerline when faced with a pedestrian in the roadway or along the roadway. In addition, the MUTCD manual suggests that the traffic volume on South Landing would not make it a candidate for consideration of centerline striping, yet there is striping. Town staff will coordinate with MCDOT on removing the centerline striping the next time South Landing is resurfaced, or find out if an interim solution is available. In addition, the town staff will evaluate centerline striping requirements for Lockdeville Boulevard. And last, the committee considered the Monroe County incentives programs to increase sidewalks along county-owned roads. The county recently announced such an incentive program to increase sidewalk connectivity along county-owned roads. The new program is a 50% cost share program with towns and only applicable for county-planned construction projects. Town staff will identify locations where this program might be used as a county Department of Transportation projects come up within the town. And I jumped the gun. The last matter was the single tree reviewed for removal and replacement. It is a tree at 804 South Grosvenor, a 34-inch silver maple, and the recommendation is to remove and replace. The committee meets next on October 10th at 9 a.m. or immediately following public safety, should it run long, which it never does.
Thank you, Christine. Moving on to new business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes. Earlier this evening, I reviewed claims totaling $482,523.50. Notable claims include the Villager Construction in the amount of $26,546.50, representing payment for paver rental for Farmers Market parking lot, Doncaster Road, Poplar Way, and Idlewood Road, and milling of Hollywood Avenue, Meadow Drive, Monroe Parkway, Greenwich Lane, and Elwell Drive. Also to advanced property contractors in the amount of $12,616, representing payment for their weekly mowing at town parks. Also to, Attica Package Company, the amount of $8,250, representing payment for wood playground mulch for Buckland Park, Town Park, Corbett's Glen, and Meridian Center. Also to Ravi Engineering and Land Surveying in the amount of $27,400.71, representing payment for design and construction services for French Road Bridge and design services for the Chelmsford Lane Culvert. And finally, to Scanex Pipe Services in the amount of $37,100, representing payment for sewer rehab on Monroe Parkway, Westerlo Avenue, and Parkwood Avenue. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Jason, I'll keep it with you for the next one.
Yes. The next matter seeks to set public hearings for the 2024 town and special district budgets, charges, and assessment rolls. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
These will set two public hearings at each of two town board meetings, one on the budget itself and one on the assessment rolls for special district charges. Those hearings, again, will be held on October 11th and October 25th. I would note, as I always do, state law only requires one public hearing. We have long felt that it was important to give people a couple of opportunities and frankly give us more time to consider the input we hear from the community. I would also note that state law would also allow us to do all of this after the election in November, which makes no sense. I think one of the things our community expects us to do is to adopt a budget and get their input on it. And so we have done this and adopted the budget in October for 30 years now, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So, but we will be taking action after those 2 public hearings at the second meeting in October. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Chris.
Bill, the next item is to approve a budget transfer of $1,300 from the Assessor's Office Attorney's Fee account to memberships and training account for the town assessor to attend the New York State Assessors Association Annual Meeting and Conference of Assessment Administration. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
I heard Jason. Any discussion on this? We're going to be talking more about assessment in a little bit, but I think this is an appropriate training opportunity. We have a motion and a second. Anything further? Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Christine.
Yes, the next matter seeks to approve an amendment to the Highway Department's authorized table of organization to reduce the number of laborers by 1 and increase the number of motor equipment operators by 1. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Everett, anything you want to?
Yeah, sure. I'll give a little background. Recent retirements and changes in personnel in the Highway Department have created vacancies in the department that, we need to increase the efficiency, which is especially evident during winter operations where not all of our equipment have assigned motor equipment vehicle operators. And so the request is to authorize a change in the highway table of organization to promote a laborer to a motor equipment operator to better increase our efficiencies within the department.
Good, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, if you, Peggy, could call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Christine.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County for the installation and use of DataWorks Plus system software for a term of 5 years with the option to renew for 2 additional 5-year terms. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Any discussion on this matter? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Chris, the next matter.
Next matter is to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Crime Watch for a web-based community communication tool for a term of 4 years in an amount not to exceed $7,427.40 annually, and to amend the budget of the police department by transferring $30,000 from the forfeited property account to the contracted services account to fund this agreement. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Chief, anything you want to say about this?
Well, first and foremost, we're using seized assets, so it's going to be budget neutral for the first 4 years. As you know, we have a lot of times we'll have incidents happen in town, and it's up to the first line supervisor to communicate that out to the public. And a lot of times that's left to me when they notify me. So I try to do that through Twitter, Facebook. I post incidents of crime that occur in town twice a week on our police blotter. So what this system's going to do is going to take all those disparate systems. I'll be able to enter it right into this, and we'll be able to send it out to wherever we need to. People will also be able to download the app on their phone, and they will be able to receive push notifications. They'll be able to, in doing that, they'll be able to sign up for any type of incident that happens in town, whether it's severe weather incidents, road closures. If we're looking for a suspect in a neighborhood, I can send that out quickly and efficiently. So I think it'll be a good system, and the whole idea behind it is to communicate effectively to the town.
Good, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Sure. Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Robin, the next matter.
Certainly, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into agreements with veterinarians and veterinary technicians for the annual Police Department Rabies Clinic in an aggregate amount not to exceed $510. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Discussion. This is, of course, a program that we do each year and was just mentioned during the report out of the Public Safety Committee. Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to approve a budget transfer of $46,000 from the Police Department's full-time wages account to the automobiles account for the purchase of a new hybrid vehicle. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
This is an item. We, of course, have a regular vehicle replacement policy with the police department. This was an opportunity after looking at our current wage accounts to see where we were at this point in the year, and we're going to take advantage of some positive comparisons to accelerate purchase of one additional vehicle into the 2023 season. I'm hoping that, I don't know whether a potential strike is going to change, but I think this is a vehicle we've identified as being
It's already on the
available.
lot,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. So the strike shouldn't affect it, and it'll give us, in a time when we sometimes have struggled to get vehicles delivered quickly, this one we know will be. So thank you, Earl and Dave, for putting this budget transfer together. Further discussion? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Robin.
Certainly, the next matter seeks to approve a budget transfer of $250, big bucks, from the Office of the Town Clerk's Maintenance/Repair Services account to the office furniture account for the purchase of a desk chair. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
All right, who's getting the chair?
The new person.
More to follow. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to approve the certificate of bonding for collection of taxes. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Jason, the next one as well.
The next one seeks to set a public hearing for authorization to adopt a budget commencing January 1, 2024,
Should be 4, yeah.
that may exceed the tax cap. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
This would be a public hearing on a proposed local law. This is a procedure directed by the state tax cap law that must be done if anytime there's frankly even a possibility that the municipality budget will exceed the tax cap. We're looking at some very high increases out of our control for some of our personnel-related costs, like a mandated retirement system, contributions, health insurance premiums, that are going to play a significant role in what we're able to do with our budget this year. So we are recommending setting this public hearing to consider a local law.
Just to note for the board, although the agenda stated 2023, the resolution and the local law itself refer to the 2024 budget.
Further discussion? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Jason, again, one more.
One more. The next matter seeks to adopt the 2024 through 2026 capital improvement plan. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
We've talked about it a little bit earlier. The 2024-2026 capital improvement plan is something that we do each year. It's an important part of the town's budget development process. It's not required by law, and there are many towns that don't adopt a CIP, but the town of Brighton has done it for at least 30 years. It gives the town board the opportunity to give special consideration and plan over a 3-year period for significant capital expenditures, the things that are recurring, like infrastructure, our sewers, our sidewalks, our streets, our gutters, equipment, big snow plows, wide range of equipment, but also, of course, vehicles, but also other important capital expenditures, software, one example, all sorts of things that really we look at things that are going to involve expenditures over $20,000 for our CIP. The process, we spend a lot of time throughout the year. This process starts typically in June, I think, May or June. In the spring, we ask each department to submit their capital improvement requests, again, for the next 3 years. So this capital improvement plan we are considering tonight is for the years 2024 through 2026. Once those requests have been received, they're reviewed by our Finance and Administrative Services Committee. They're reviewed by our Finance Director. They're reviewed by myself. The Finance Director spends a lot of time in my office this time of year. And we ultimately make recommendations to include various of those items in the CIP. One of the also important things that we do is we identify funding sources. We identify, for example, whether there's a grant or other third-party source of funding that might be available. We identify if we believe we will have to borrow to pay for a given capital expenditure. Some of these particularly are debt service for existing capital, previously made capital expenditures are paid for out of operating funds, but all of those are identified as such in the capital improvement plan. We've been fairly flat, fluctuating over the last several years in our capital improvement plan. The recommended funding we have this year is, again, I want to note, recommended funding out of the operating budget is $3,637,000. That's down from just over $3,900,000 in the 2023 operating budget. The spreadsheet that's part of the materials that reflects the CIP tonight does list the various projects that will be potentially funded from each funding source. And I do say potentially because for a couple of reasons. One, particularly funding that is proposed to come from a grant or other source. There's often a lot of uncertainty as to whether a given grant or legislative program will be available, so the amount and timing, if any, of that third-party funding is uncertain. It's also important to note that all of these items that are included in the CIP are also reviewed as part of our review of the operating budget. So just because something makes it in tonight, or for that matter is taken out tonight, as we develop at least the budget for 2024, we will have the opportunity to reconsider either taking out a project that you may have in the CIP now or adding a project back in. I do want to talk about a couple of significant projects that are in particular going to affect the early years of this CIP. One we heard conversation about a moment ago in the committee reports, our town hall project. This is a significant project for the town, and it really is driven by our HVAC system. One, it's an HVAC system that dates back the 70 years or so since this main wing of Town Hall was built. So as you can imagine, that we got 70 years out of it is pretty remarkable, but at this point it is not operating at anywhere close to either efficiency from an energy perspective or also effectiveness. Air conditioning has been a challenge. And filtration. Filtration was something we really didn't think a whole lot about, and then the pandemic hit. And you heard discussion about what levels of filtration were there in a given building. This HVAC system in this building has no air filtration. So it was something we had identified as an important project. It's something that largely because of the pandemic and because of the availability of funding through the ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, we have funding for at least part of this project. And as you heard, we're still looking at exactly the scope of it. We will be doing major HVAC work, that's clear. What's also clear is to do that, we will have to do major asbestos remediation in this building, as is the case for all pretty much commercial buildings built in the 50s. There is asbestos here in the building. It's not currently a hazard, but it will be, important to remove it as part of the work. You can't do the kind of work that is going to be needed without doing that. I anticipate we will be using green, sustainable technologies. That will also reduce some of the operating costs, but there's a number of other components. The parking lot of this building. Anybody that drives here sees the cracks, sees the potholes. Partly that's a function of age, partly that's a function of drainage issues that are going to have to be addressed. So the work on the parking lot is not going to be as simple as just slapping down a new coat of asphalt. Another very important change, it has long troubled me that access for disabled people is in the rear of the building. It smacks of a back of the bus feel, and that's simply not acceptable. So we have gotten a proposal from our architectural team to develop what I think will be a very nice and symmetrical, in keeping with the shape of the building, dual ramp system at the front of the building to improve accessibility. There will be some other improvements that we'll be considering. About $3.5 million is still available from the ARPA pandemic relief money, but this project is going to cost significantly more than that, and there will be debt funding that we will need to use to fund it. Some other significant projects, again, beyond, I talked earlier about recurring infrastructure costs for roads and sewers and the like. The Chelmsford Road culvert, just south of Elmwood, culvert. The culvert near Elmwood, which gave way last year following a rain. We've done some work on whether to replace the street or whether to make it pedestrian accessible, but in either case, that culvert has to be fixed at what we believe will be a significant cost. We've received grant money, or at least a commitment of grant money for sidewalks along East Avenue to complete the sort of the northwest connection of sidewalks from the Pittsford line up to Allens Creek Road, where people can cross and continue on towards the city on the other side of East Avenue. That's a difficult project because of some drastic changes in elevation and a historic stone wall that's there. But thanks to Senator Cooney, we will have grant funding that will make it possible, again, furthering our aim of being a walkable, safe community. We are also experiencing, as many of us, most of us, all of us probably know, real estate prices in Brighton. As you know, we were named by Realtor.com as the hottest real estate market in the country last year. Real estate prices have gone up dramatically in the town of Brighton. One of the implications of that is that some of the measures we use in determining tax assessments, particularly our equalization ratio, have deviated dramatically and are now outside the range that would lead us to determine that a townwide revaluation is necessary. So we have put funding in. We were already funding a contribution to the reserve for that purpose, but we are including in our CIP funding for a revaluation, a 2-year revaluation. Work would start in 2024, be completed in 2025. Now let me talk a little bit about what a revaluation means, because if there's one concept in government that is misunderstood very often, it's revaluation. These significant increases in residential properties make it particularly important to conduct a revaluation. Different properties appreciate at different rates. When you get to the ratio that we're at now, revaluation and looking at each property ensures that each property owner pays their proper share of taxes. What it does not do is increase the budget. What it means is that that pie, whatever this town board determines in each year, the budget and the tax levy is going to be, it makes sure that that tax levy is distributed fairly. It's really important to remember that. It's something we're going to talk about a lot. And as an example, you know, prices have gone up dramatically. Now, perhaps if your home is found to have increased when we do this revaluation, let's say 10%. If other properties in town have gone up an average of 30%, your taxes may go down. You may see that 10% increase and think your taxes are going to go up 10%. Ain't necessarily so. The amount that your valuation goes up does not, I'll say it again and again and again, does not determine how much taxes will go up. After a revaluation, what normally happens is that the tax rate goes down dramatically to offset the increase in assessed valuations. So that's something we're going to talk about a lot if we decide to go ahead with a revaluation, but I think it's important for the community to know it is something we are considering. It is something that we have in this capital improvement plan. I'll stop there. We have a motion on the floor and open it up for further discussion from the board or staff for that matter. Hearing none, we do have a motion from Jason, seconded by Robin, to approve this CIP. Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. And finally, we do have this last item relating to the proposed Top Golf incentive zoning proposal. And Councilmember Corrado, if you would please make the motion.
Happy to do so this week, not 2 weeks from now. I move regarding the matter to determine that the incentive zoning proposal by Westfall Brighton SRE LLC for the development of an outdoor Recreation and Golf Entertainment Center on Westfall Road is worthy of further consideration and that it be referred to the Planning Board. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Thank you. We've talked about it a little bit tonight. Again, just to be clear, what this will do is it refers the matter to the Planning Board for the preliminary consideration as to whether it is worthy of further consideration. That is the first step for every incentive zoning process. We have an incentive zoning process that's codified in the town code based on the state law, which authorized incentive zoning over 30 years ago. I do want to say one of the things that is very important to us, as it is in all of our incentive zoning projects, is that incorporated in here is an amenity agreement proposal that will require the owner to pay full town taxes. We've done that in project after project, including the Whole Foods project. We're doing it again in this project. Incentive zoning allows us to get amenities for the community that may offset potential impacts that a project can have. It is an opportunity for us to take a good hard look at a project to see if it makes sense, how it will affect the community in many ways. And we have found incentive zoning to be the most important tool in our land use toolbox. So we have a motion here to make a finding that that this project is worthy of further consideration and refer it to the Planning Board. Is there any further discussion? Rob?
Yeah, so Supervisor, you did mention the fact that this area has one of the hottest zip codes, and reflecting the fact that we have very low inventory in terms of housing. I know that it's not true in the most recent comprehensive plan that this parcel was considered for residential development, and so I just want to emphasize that this parcel, under the current comprehensive plan 2018 to 2028 Envision Brighton comprehensive plan, this parcel is not designated for residential use.
So the current zoning on the property is in fact RLB, which is residential. And going back to Comprehensive Plan 2000, it was identified again as RLB. For Envision Brighton, this parcel was not particularly identified, and no particular recommendation other than a general recommendation that this property be developed for office. But of course, that was in a time when there was a demand for office. It is adjacent to Sawgrass and the medical offices on Sawgrass, but it's also adjacent to the commercial property, which is in the city, which is Citygate, including Costco. And so this proposal, at the really behest of staff, is proposing two things to get this project done. One is the incentive zoning that you're looking at tonight, which has to do more with variances, if you will, relative to parking and building height and matters of size and structure, and also a rezoning of this property to, at staff's suggestion, BF2, which is our general commercial, because BF2 already allows for indoor recreation use, and we thought this was a better fit, and truly in keeping with what that neighborhood ought to be developed. But ultimately, that's going to be your decision. Tonight, you're simply being asked to consider whether this Topgolf development proposal, with one of the amenities being continuing to pay town tax. There's also a substantial cash amenity. There's also a proposed substantial amenity relative to building a sidewalk along Buckland Park to provide better access to Buckland Park. There's also amenities relative to the infrastructure on site, and of course, the general appeal of this project coming to the town of Brighton. The reason why the real estate tax amenity is important is because we fully expect the developer to seek Comida tax exemption, because this project is going to create a lot of jobs and will be an economic boost for the community. And this is the kind of project that we would expect Comida would grant some relief for. Tonight, though, it's a very simple, is this project worthy of further consideration, so we can push it on to the planning board. Let the planning board then look at, do these amenities balance out with the incentives that are being asked for, and is this project as proposed consistent with the overall neighborhood development? Does it fit for this site generally? And that's what they should come back to you with recommendations on.
Thanks,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Is that helpful?
Yes.
Great, thanks. Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, I do want to make note of 3 events that I've attended over the last couple days. Last Friday night, I attended the annual dinner of the Monroe County Magistrates Association, the organization of town and village judges throughout Monroe County. It was a very Brighton-centric evening because the guest of honor, the awardee, was our own Judge Karen Morris. She received the James Morris Award. And of course, James Morris refers to former Brighton Town Justice, the Honorable James, or Jim Morris. No relation, although that was an awful lot of people had to be told that during the years that Judge Morris and Judge Morris served on the bench together. But the stellar career of Judge Jim Morris is certainly ably reflected in the award that was presented to reflect the stellar career of Judge Karen Morris, not only for her legal career, but also for the many ways she has served the community over the years. She'll be stepping down as Brighton Town Judge at the end of calendar year 2023, but she will continue to teach as a professor at MCC, so that's good for the folks over there. Sunday at the Brighton Farmers Market was an event that the Brighton Rotary Club and Our Community Bikes holds regularly. It was a bike collection event. Our Community Bikes is an organization located on Hudson Avenue in the city that receives bike donations and refurbishes them, makes them available to people in the community in need of transportation. And people, not just from Brighton, but from as far away, somebody came from Spencerport to make a bike donation. But over 200 bikes were donated to Our Community Bikes over the course of a 4-hour period at the Brighton Farmers Market. Volunteers, both from Brighton Rotary and from Our Community Bikes, were there to take those donations, deliver them up to Hudson Avenue. As a Rotarian myself, it was a lot of fun, got to see a lot of people, but really the outpouring, I just want to thank all of the people that made all those donations. You will make a difference at a time, particularly when we know there are new Americans coming to this community. Many of them will surely be looking for transportation as they are settled here, and I know that Our Community Bikes will put those bikes to good use. Finally, this morning, I had the opportunity to help lead the annual Rosh Hashanah parade at Jewish Senior Life. That's a tradition that began during the pandemic, an outdoor parade, but it's continued since, even though for the most part the pandemic concerns are faded. And it's really easy to see why. Everybody loved it. The residents of the various facilities at Jewish Senior Life were out along the drives in the complex. Staff, students from a couple of the Jewish day schools in town, this year's Shinshinim, Israeli exchange students, and all sorts of people were, parading through, celebrating the coming New Year. So as we do look forward to Rosh Hashanah, which begins Friday night at sundown, I want to wish Shana Tova to all of our residents, everybody watching and who is here tonight, who will be celebrating Rosh Hashanah. Happy New Year. Matters of the town attorney. Ken.
No, I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
Matters of the deputy town clerk.
Town clerk's office is very busy collecting taxes. If you are paying taxes in full, school taxes in full, the due date is Monday, October 2nd. If you are paying in installments, your first installment is due this Friday, September 15th.
Thank you, and please do observe the signs outside and keep those parking spaces available when they're out there for people parking their cars for paying taxes. Matters of the town board.
Bill, if I might, I want to give recognition to a Brighton artist, Dr. Jennifer Kamish of the RIT College of Education, of Engineering, and her father, who have decorated the traffic control cabinet at the corner of Elmwood and South Clinton with a space exploration theme, including one of our own astronauts, appears to be an American astronaut, but also an extraterrestrial, and that individual's vehicle, and a space cat of some sort. It's a very fun project in cooperation with the town, to the extent that, and the county, that it's a county traffic signal box. And we handle the permitting. I handle the priming of the box personally, and then a resident comes in and paints the box. This is now I believe it's the 5th control box that we've got painted around town. You see the Dalmatians and a number of others out on Westfall Road. So it's great fun, and please stop by. I saw it in pictures and so forth, but for the first time today, I actually drove by it, and it really stands out. It's a very nice job, and Jennifer, thank you so much for your work.
Thank you indeed. Chris, thank you as well for your continued commitment. I think Jason summed it up best in his comment. It's out of this world.
Unintended.
Any other comments from the board? Then can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Thank you, everybody, for watching or attending tonight. Our next town board meeting will be right here in the auditorium, Wednesday, September 27th at 7 p.m. Have a great evening, everybody.